Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Savvy Sales Lady Live. Well, I see we have viewers. If you don't mind, tell me where you're viewing from in the comments, and don't forget to put your questions in the comments as well. All right, before we get started, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my new community called the Seller's Mind Lab. And if you just scan that barcode or that QR code in the top, you'll be able to go right to it. And it's a community for all salespeople where we can meet and discuss what your issues are. Okay, so I want to encourage you to scan that and go to the Sellers Community, Sellers Mind Community. All right, let me get my notes up and we'll get started. I'm having a little trouble with my voice today, so excuse me for clearing my throat. So today we're going to move the needle in your sales career. And I'm really fired up about today's topic because it's something that's completely transformed salespeople's values and how they approach sales. Now, persuasion and influence is an anomaly that it gets confusing for some people. And I'm not saying that you should use either one. I'm just talking about it today so that you have an idea of what the difference is between persuasion and influence. Because today, most people completely get it wrong. Persuasion versus influence is more than meets the eye, okay? And what you need to know right up front is one of these you can control and master, and the other one, well, you're pretty much sunk whatever you've got or whatever you do. So let's kind of dive into this and let's talk about what the terms actually mean. Let's define those terms clearly. So influence is passive. It's based on who you are, your status, your authority, your reputation. So think about it. Think about it like Oprah has influence. Tony Robbins has influence. A celebrity endorsing a product or service has influence. The CEO of a 500 or Fortune 500 company has influence. It's about your position, your credentials, your fame, your following. Influence is what happens when people buy from you because of your title, your brand, or your status. And sometimes influence can take years to develop. Now, persuasion is active. It's a skill. It's about what you do and say in the moment to change someone's mind, to kind of veer them in another direction, gently reminding them of certain things. Persuasion is a communication strategy. Asking the right questions, reframing objections, presenting evidence, creating cognitive shifts. Persuasion is what you control in every single conversation. And here's the kicker. You can't fake influence, but you can absolutely master persuasion. And I'm not saying you should use either one. And we'll get into more of that into today's live stream. So why does this matter to you? Why does it matter to you? So, the question is, okay, but wouldn't it be great to have both? Well, of course it would be. But like I said, most of us aren't celebrities. It would take millions of followers to be that one influencer that stands out. And that's not the everyday salesperson, is it? We're not the CEO. We don't have a PhD after our name. We just can't snap our fingers and have massive influence. Most salespeople don't have any influence or very little. But you know what you can do? You can get incredibly skilled at persuasion. And thank goodness for that, because persuasion is what actually closes deals. Let me give you a real world example. I worked with 2 salespeople in the same company. And I've done that quite a bit because I train sales teams. One was a VP of sales, had the title, the corner office, reputation, lots of influence. Okay. The other was a junior rep, barely 6 months into the role. We've all been there. We all started as the new person. And that poor junior rep had no influence whatsoever. But guess who consistently closed bigger deals? It was the junior rep. Why? Because she had mastered persuasion skills. She knew how to ask questions that made prospects think differently. She even asked me, should I go after this deal because the VP is telling me not to waste my time? I had experienced that when I sold group insurance too. Don't waste your time on that one. They'll never buy. That was a challenge for me. And I loved closing those deals. So she asked me what I thought. And I said, absolutely, give it your best shot. So she did. And she started learning how to reframe, and she started learning how to understand behavioral psychology. So the VP, who hadn't sold in a long time, relied on his title and reputation. And that just wasn't enough, which was often he had nothing else in his toolkit. And that's the thing about influencers. They think that even if you're the VP of sales, you think that's all it takes. It doesn't. It takes more savvy skills than just having a title. The title may open the door, but if you don't know how to close the deal in today's marketplace, that influence doesn't mean a thing. So here's what's dangerous about relying on influence. Another point, it makes you lazy. If you're used to people buying from you because of who you are, your company's brand, your personal reputation, your social media following, you never develop the actual skills of persuasion. And then what happens is when you change companies, when you're in a new market, when you're up against someone more that has more influence than you, you're stuck. Persuasion, on the other hand, travels with you wherever you go. It doesn't matter if you switch industries, change companies, or start over in a new city. Your persuasion skills go with you. They're yours. Nobody can take them away. Make sense? So let me break down what this looks like in real scenarios, real selling scenarios, because I want you to see the difference crystal clear. So scenario one is getting the first meeting. I have been there. So I can absolutely talk about this with you. I was given a meeting by an influencer. Okay, the person that influenced this business. So the prospect takes your call because you work for a well-known company or because their boss told them to meet with you. And that's what happened to me. The influencer told this person to meet with me. Or maybe they're taking the meeting because you have an impressive title. You didn't do anything. Your status did the work. Now, in the particular example I gave you where the influencer told this man to take my meeting, and I've told this story many times, all he did was sit and physically looked at his watch to make sure I saw he was looking at his watch. And about 3 or 4 times into this short meeting that he did that, I folded up my portfolio and I walked away. And as I was walking out the door, I did my Columbo move. And that is, I turned around and I said, I'm curious, why did you take this meeting if you had no interest to listen? And he said, because my boss told me to take it. Doesn't work. Doesn't work, everyone. So don't waste your time. And I did all the steps. I called him beforehand, talked to him, sent the emails, did all of that, but it didn't matter. He played the game, did what he was told to do, had no intentions of listening or buying. Now, the persuasion approach is you craft a compelling opening statement that creates curiosity, which I did with this particular person. You ask a question that makes them think. You reference something specific about their business that shows that you've done your homework. You create a reason for them to want to talk to you. That's a skill. It really, really is. So moving forward, I never took a meeting unless the influencer went to the meeting with me. All right. When you're doing the persuasion approach, as I said, you craft a compelling opening statement that creates curiosity. So let me tell you about what just happened recently. So I'm on the phone with this prospect and I opened it up by saying, tell me all about your business. That's all I asked. Tell me all about your business. 30 minutes, she told me every part of her business, and I could tell how excited she was about this business. And then after 30 minutes, she says, I really want you to come on board and help us with this project. Can you give me a price? And I said, well, I can give you a ballpark. And she said, well, I really want a firm price. And I said, okay, if you'll hold on, let me ask you a few more questions. Let me put together a price point and just stay on the line and I'll be with you. Now, in this entire conversation, she didn't ask me one thing about my services, not one thing. She didn't ask me any questions about me at all. And the only initial question I asked to her was, tell me all about your business. It wasn't until we got down into the pricing that I asked her a few more questions. So I gave her the price and she says, hold on, let me get my credit card. Paid right then and there. Okay. So sometimes, does that happen every time with my prospects? No, it does not. But with that particular person, I just let her talk. I didn't interrupt. I didn't do anything but listen. And that's the third component of all of this. Influence, persuasion, but there's a whole nother component called just being present and listening. I cannot tell you how powerful that is. All right, let's talk about handling price objections. So the influence approach would be, we're the market leader. Everyone uses us. You can trust our pricing. So you're relying on your company's reputation to overcome the price objection, right? In persuasion, the persuasion approach, you're honest with them. I understand price is a concern. Walk me through what you're comparing us to. Another good question is, walk me through your buying decision. What's most important to you? Lowest upfront cost or lowest total cost of ownership over 3 years? So you're using strategic questions to reframe how they think about price. That's persuasion. So let's go to scenario 3, closing the deal. The influencer approach would be, they buy because you're famous in your industry, or because you have great reviews, or because your brand is recognizable. Your reputation closed the deal. With persuasion, you've asked questions throughout the conversation that help them discover their own pain points. You've presented options and helped them think through consequences. You've told stories that created emotional resonance. You've used social proof strategically. You guide them into a skilled, well, let me say that again. You guide them to a decision through skill. That's persuasion. So here are 5 persuasion skills you need to know. Number 1, strategic questioning. This is the foundation. As I said in that one scenario I gave you recently, I asked one question. That's it. Most salespeople ask surface level questions. What's your budget? What's your timeline? If you ask them what's your budget, they're not going to tell you. They might give you a number, but that isn't the real answer. That's not persuasion. That's information gathering. Okay. Strategic questions make people think differently. They create awareness of problems that they didn't know they had. They help prospects discover their own answers. Instead of what are your pain points, try, if nothing changes in the next 12 months, if you don't make a decision in the next 12 months, what does that cost you and your company? Now, this makes them think and also could create urgency. That questions makes them calculate the price of inaction. That's persuasion. Skill number 2 is reframing, and I talk about this quite a bit. This is the ability to take an objection or concern and help someone see it from a completely different angle. When someone says your price is too high, a persuasive salesperson doesn't defend the price. They reframe it. I appreciate that. We hear that from time to time. Most of our best clients said the same thing initially. What they found was that the price difference was about $200 a month, but it saved them 15 hours of a week of work. How much is your time worth? You just reframe price from a cost to an investment. That's a learnable skill. So skill number 3 is pattern interrupts. Our brains run on autopilot most of the time. So when you can interrupt someone's expected pattern, you create an opening for new thinking. If everyone in your industry sends the same follow-up email, you need to do something different. If every competitor leads with features, you lead with a story. Stories tell sales faster than features and benefits. That's boring. If everyone asks, is now a good time? You say, I know this is unexpected. Do you have 90 seconds? Pattern interrupts make people pay attention. That's persuasion. Now, storytelling, that's skill number 4, my favorite. Data tells, but stories sell, as I said earlier. A persuasive salesperson knows how to tell a relevant story that creates an emotional connection and illustrates a point more powerful than any statistic could. So let me tell you about Kim. She was in and this is a story you would tell. Let me tell you about Kim. She was in your exact situation 6 months ago. She was frustrated with XYZ. That story does more to build trust and create urgency than any feature list could ever. And then you complete the story about how Kim, by using your product or service, was able to solve ABC. Always use happy clients as part of your story to tell the prospect. Skill number 5, behavioral calibration. This is about reading the room. Noticing body language, energy shifts, micro expressions, like the man that was always raising his arm and looking at his watch. The first time he did that, I knew that this was going nowhere. I should have packed it up then. A persuasive salesperson pays attention to what's not being said and adjusts in real time. If you notice someone's energy drop when you mention price, you don't plow forward. And this happened to me. So I was on a Zoom call with a prospect, and up until this point, he had never, ever talked about or objected to my price. So this was the final meeting where we were going to sign the contracts and move forward. All of a sudden, he's not looking at me. He's looking away. He's looking down. And so I said, what's going on, Bob? What are you thinking about? Well, it's your price. Again, up until that point, he never indicated it was a problem. This is what I call 11th hour tactic, where you're at the very edge of signing that agreement and they start hedging on the price, hoping that you'll cave and you'll reduce your price. This particular prospect wanted me to reduce my price by 50%. And instead, I walked away. There is no way you're going to pull that on me at the 11th hour when for 6 weeks you were in total agreement and never brought it up. And even I asked him about the pricing. Does he have any questions about the pricings? Oh, no, it looks good. It looks good. That's called an 11th hour tactic that they try to pull on you so that you'll cave. I walked away. So when you notice their body language changing, do what I did. I just noticed that you're looking down and you're looking away. What's on your mind? That awareness and flexibility is a skill, and you need to learn that skill so they don't pull the wool over your eyes. So why is persuasion the equalizer in all of this? You don't need to be the most well-known person in your industry. You don't need a fancy degree. You don't need to work for the biggest company. You don't need thousands of social media followers. You just need to get really, really good at changing minds through skillful communication. I have seen brand new salespeople outperform 20-year veterans because they mastered persuasion. I've watched people with zero influence build $1-million books of business through pure skill. I built three separate $30 million books of business. And I didn't have any influence, but I had skill, persuasion skill, listening skills. And here's the other beautiful thing. Persuasion is 100% learnable. It's not some magic talent you're born with. It's a set of specific techniques you can study, practice, and master. Influence, you either have it or you don't. And building it takes years or even decades, as I said earlier. Right now, what you need in your very next conversation is persuasion skills and listening skills. Okay, we have come to the end of the Savvy Sales Lady Live. I really hope that this, I know it will help you learn persuasion skills. And I'll see you next week. But in the meantime, stay savvy. Check out the Seller's Mind Lab. And I'll see you at the Seller's Mind Lab. Bye-bye.